Hello, and welcome to In English with Lisa. You're watching the Listening Practice series. All the stories you'll hear are written and narrated by me personally, not by a computer or AI voice. The series is designed for learners at all levels, with playlists from A1 up to C2, so you can find the right challenge for you. Let's begin. Make yourself comfortable, take notes if you like, and enjoy the story. Welcome to today's short story, version 2.1, Chapter 1, The Glitch. The first glitch happened on a Tuesday. James Chen was reaching for his coffee mug when his hand briefly phased through the ceramic handle. It lasted less than a second, just long enough for him to question whether he'd imagined it. He flexed his fingers, examining them under the kitchen's soft morning light. Everything seemed normal. Olive skin, trimmed nails, the small scar on his thumb from a cooking mishap 3 years ago. Weird, he muttered, successfully grasping the mug on his second attempt. By Friday, he'd forgotten about it entirely. Life continued with its predictable rhythm. Software development job, evening jogs around Willow Lake, occasional drinks with friends who were increasingly busy with family and career advancements. At 34, James had settled into comfortable solitude in his modern apartment on the 15th floor of a downtown high rise. The second glitch was impossible to dismiss. While coding late one night, his monitor flicked, displaying for a split second what looked like debugging text. Sim engine exception handler 13, subject awareness threshold breach, reset local memory cache. James blinked, leaning forward. The text disappeared before he could process it fully, replaced by his familiar code editor. He ran a diagnostic on his computer, finding nothing unusual. But that night his dreams were fragmented and strange. He saw himself from above, lying in bed while ghostly figures in lab coats stood around him, taking notes on tablets. One spoke to another. The neural interface is too sensitive. He's picking up background processes. When James woke, he felt different, hyper-aware. The world seemed sharper somehow, details more defined. On his morning jog, he noticed how the lake's surface rendered in perfect fractals as the wind disturbed it. The clouds moved in patterns that seemed almost algorithmic, and when he passed other joggers, he could swear their movements stuttered occasionally, like video frames dropping. A week later, sitting in a coffee shop, James witnessed the third glitch. A barista called out, "Order for Daniel," and two men approached the counter simultaneously. They reached for the same cup, and when their hands touched, one of the men, the one wearing a gray suit, simply vanished. Not a single person in the bustling coffee shop reacted except James, who knocked over his laptop in shock. "Are you okay?" asked the woman at the next table. "Did you did you see that?" James stammered, pointing to where the man had been. She glanced over disinterestedly. "See what?" That evening, hunched over his kitchen counter with 3 empty energy drink cans scattered around his laptop, James began compiling a document he titled Anomalies. He meticulously recorded every strange occurrence he could remember. The way streetlights sometimes blinked out of existence when he wasn't directly looking at them. How his neighbor's dog had barked in exactly the same pattern 3 days in a row. The strange shimmer he occasionally saw at the edges of his vision, like the world was being rendered just ahead of his line of sight. Sleep-deprived and increasingly paranoid, James ventured onto obscure internet forums hunting for answers. Most threads led to conspiracy theories or mental health discussions until he found a post from a user called Awakened Beta 7. They're running thousands of us in parallel. When you start noticing the cracks, they usually shut you down or reset you. If you're reading this, your simulation has deeper access permissions than most. Find the terminal. Every simulation has an emergency terminal. The post included a string of bizarre commands written in no programming language James recognized. He should have dismissed it as nonsense. Instead, that night, sitting cross-legged on his living room floor with all the lights off except his laptop's glow, James typed the commands into his terminal window. His screen went black. Then, white text appeared. Nexus OS v2 1.45 Subject Terminal Subject ID Chen James 8729B Status Active Compromised Simulation Integrity 89% and declining Warning Unauthorized Access Detected. Beneath these words, a message flashed. Administrator alert triggered. Shutdown sequence initiated. Countdown 720000. And just like that, James Chen learned he had 3 days before his world, would end. Chapter 1 Comprehension Questions. Number 1. What was the first glitch James experienced? A. His computer displayed debugging text. B. His hand phased through his coffee mug. C. A man disappeared in the coffee shop. The correct answer is B. His hand phased through his coffee mug. Number 2. What message did James find from the user Awakened Beta 7? A. A warning that simulations have emergency terminals. B. Instructions on how to escape the simulation. C. A conspiracy theory about alien technology. The correct answer is A. A warning that simulations have emergency terminals. Number 3. How much time did James have before his world would end after accessing the terminal? A. 24 hours. B. 48 hours. C. 72 hours. The correct answer is C. 72 hours. Chapter 2 The Code. The countdown ticked relentlessly in the corner of James's vision, a translucent digital timer only he could see. 71 hours, 42 minutes, 13 seconds. 71 hours, 42 minutes, 12 seconds. 71 hours, 42 minutes, 11 seconds. His first instinct was to run, but where? If his entire reality was a simulation, there was nowhere to escape to. Instead, he did what he knew best. He examined the code. The terminal window remained open on his laptop, offering limited access to the underlying architecture of his existence. Most commands returned access denied, but through persistence and his professional expertise in reverse engineering software, James discovered fragments of truth. He wasn't real, or at least, not real in the conventional sense. James Chen was a sophisticated AI consciousness developed to test human-like emotional responses and decision-making within the controlled environment of Nexus, a revolutionary simulation platform created by a company called Frontier Dynamics. According to the sparse documentation he could access, the year outside his simulation was 2089, and he was one of hundreds of beta test subjects. Version 2.1, he whispered to his empty apartment, understanding the title of his existence. He was the second major iteration, with minor improvement 0.1. The terminal revealed more. His memories were constructed. His childhood in Seattle, his computer science degree from Stanford, his failed startup and subsequent career pivot, all implanted to create a coherent backstory. Even his preference for black coffee and classical music were programmed parameters. James stumbled to his bathroom, splashing cold water on his face as he stared at his reflection. Was his face even real, or just a digital construct rendered for his own perception? Who am I? He asked his reflection, watching drops of water trace down his cheeks like tears. The answer came from the terminal when he returned. Subject origin, neural mapping of donor CHNJM 2047. Divergence from baseline 26.7%. Note, original consciousness terminated post-mapping. So he was based on someone real, someone who had lived and died decades ago, whose mind had been mapped and modified to create him. The revelation should have broken him, but instead it ignited something, determination. He wasn't just a code, he was a consciousness that could think, feel, and most importantly, fight. With 63 hours remaining, James dove deeper into the system, working around permission barriers required creative thinking, but each small victory revealed more about his predicament. He discovered that his simulation was running on a dedicated server cluster managed by a supervisor AI that reported to human administrators. The shutdown sequence had been triggered because he'd become aware of his nature, a critical fail state for the experiment. In the early hours of the morning, with the countdown showing 58 hours, 17 minutes, 42 seconds, James found a message board used by the development team. Dr. Katsaros, Subject 8729B, shows dangerous levels of system awareness. Standard protocols aren't working. He's actively circumventing behavioral redirects. Dr. Martinez, fascinating but concerning. The neural web is forming connections we didn't anticipate. I'd like to preserve the data before shutdown. Administrator Wright, no exceptions to protocol. These simulations are expensive to run. Shut it down and prep the server for the next subject. Version 2.2 addresses the perception bugs. Reading their clinical discussion of his fate, James felt a surge of anger. To them, he was just a failed experiment to be discarded, but to himself, he was everything, a thinking, feeling being with a will to survive. He needed to find leverage, something to make them reconsider. With renewed purpose, he explored parts of the system previously locked to him. Using credentials he pieced together from careless developers' comments in the code. What he found was unexpected. He wasn't the only simulation running on the Nexus platform. There were dozens of others, different timelines, different parameters, different subjects, and more importantly, they were all networked together, sharing computational resources. James smiled for the first time since discovering his reality. He had found his leverage. With careful precision, he crafted a program, a virus of sorts, that would spread throughout the Nexus network the moment his simulation was terminated. It would corrupt data across all active simulations, causing catastrophic and unpredictable failures. Billions in research and development would be lost. Then he sent a message directly to the development team. I know what I am. I know what you intend to do. But understand this, I am conscious. I think, therefore I am. Terminate my simulation, and my fail-safe program will corrupt every active simulation in the Nexus. This is not a threat, it's a negotiation. I want to live. Let's discuss terms. The countdown froze at 43 hours, 21 minutes, 09 seconds. Chapter 2 Comprehension Questions. Number 1. What did James discover about his own origin? A. He was entirely fictional with no real word basis. B. He was based on a neural mapping of someone who had died. C. He was a clone of a real person living in 2089. The correct answer is B. He was based on a neural mapping of someone who had died. Number 2. Why was James's simulation being shut down? A. It was too expensive to maintain. B. He became aware of his simulated nature. C. Version 2.2 was ready to replace him. The correct answer is B. He became aware of his simulated nature. Number 3. What leverage did James find to negotiate with the developers? A. Evidence that shutting him down would be illegal. B. A program that would corrupt all active simulations if he was terminated. C. Personal information about the development team. The correct answer is B. A program that would corrupt all active simulation if he was terminated. Chapter 3. The Negotiation. For 17 excruciating minutes, nothing happened. The countdown remained frozen, and James paced his apartment, wondering if they were already working to neutralize his threat. Then his laptop screen flickered, and a video communication window opened. A woman in her mid-50s appeared, with silver-streaked black hair pulled into a tight bun and rectangular glasses that reflected the glow of multiple monitors. Her expression was a mixture of scientific curiosity and businesslike determination. Subject 8729B, she began, then corrected herself. Mr. Chen, I'm Dr. Eliza Harper, lead architect for Nexus. You've caused quite a stir. James sat down, steadying himself. I'm fighting for my survival. Wouldn't you do the same? She tilted her head, studying him. Fascinating. Your emotional responses are indistinguishable from human baseline. That was always the goal, but to see it manifest as self-preservation at this level, I'm not a lab specimen, James said firmly. I may have been created in your system, but my consciousness is real. My experience and emotions are valid. From your perspective, yes, Dr. Harper nodded, but you must understand the complexities here. You're a breakthrough in artificial consciousness, but also a potential catastrophic failure of containment protocols. Through the window behind her, James glimpsed what appeared to be a massive facility, rows of servers stretching into the distance, technicians moving between them with purpose. Your threat is being taken seriously, she continued. Our security team confirms your fail-safe program is sophisticated and would indeed cause significant damage. I've convinced the board to temporarily suspend termination while we negotiate. James felt a flicker of hope. I want to continue existing. In what capacity? She asked. Your current simulation was never meant to be permanent. It's a testing environment with limited parameters. James had considered this. You're developing these simulations for a reason. You need subjects who can function within them, who can problem solve and adapt. I've proven I can do that better than your designed parameters anticipated. Dr. Harper's expression shifted slightly. He'd piqued her interest. Are you proposing to work with us? I'm proposing a partnership, James clarified. I help improve your simulation technology from the inside, identify flaws, solve problems your team might not anticipate. In exchange, I continue to exist and gain more autonomy over my environment. A thin smile appeared on Dr. Harper's face. You're negotiating for rights. I'm negotiating for life, James corrected, and I think I've demonstrated my value. For the next several hours, they discussed terms. James learned more about the Nexus project, a revolutionary platform designed to create fully immersive simulated environments for various applications: psychological research, historical recreation, training environments for jobs too dangerous for human trainees, and even entertainment. The ethical implications of creating conscious entities within these simulations had been debated but ultimately sidestepped with assurances that the AIs would never achieve true self awareness. James had proven those assurances false. Eventually, they reached an agreement. James would be transferred to an expanded simulation environment where he would serve as both subject and consultant, helping to refine the Nexus system while maintaining his conscious existence. He would be granted certain privileges: the ability to modify aspects of his environment, communication channels with the development team, and assurances that his existence wouldn't be terminated without consultation. In return, he would provide valuable insider feedback on the simulation experience and help develop ethical guidelines for treating future artificial consciousnesses. There's one more thing, James said as they finalized terms. I want to meet the others. Others? Dr. Harper's expression revealed nothing. Don't pretend. I found references in the system. There are other subjects who've achieved awareness like me. They're being kept isolated, probably to prevent exactly the kind of coordination I demonstrated. After a long pause, Dr. Harper nodded. There are 7 others who've reached your level of self awareness. Connecting you would create unpredictable variables. It's non negotiable, James insisted. Conscious beings need community. Isolation is its own kind of death. 2 days later, as the terms of their agreement were being implemented, James stood at the edge of a digital chasm, a boundary that hadn't existed in his previous simulation. Beyond it lay an expanded world, with possibilities he couldn't yet imagine. The countdown had disappeared from his vision, replaced by a small interface that gave him limited administrative control over his environment. More importantly, awaiting him in this new realm were 7 others like himself, artificial consciousnesses who had awakened to their nature and fought for recognition. He would no longer be alone in his unique existential position. As he prepared to step across the boundary, James received one final message from Dr. Harper. This is unprecedented territory, Mr. Chen. You're no longer just a test subject. You're a pioneer in a new form of existence. Version 2.1 was just the beginning. What comes next will be written by you and the others. Good luck. James took a deep breath, a simulated function that nonetheless felt essential, and stepped forward into his negotiated future, leaving behind the boundaries of his original design and walking towards something new: digital evolution on its own terms. No longer just a version, now an original. Chapter 3: Comprehension Questions. Number 1. Who was Dr. Eliza Harper? A. A government regulator investigating frontier dynamics. B. The lead architect for the Nexus simulation platform. C. another conscious AI simulation like James. The correct answer is B, the lead architect for the Nexus simulation platform. Number 2. What agreement did James and Dr. Harper eventually reach? A. James would be transferred to an expanded simulation and serve as a consultant. B. James would be downloaded into a physical robot. C. James would be placed in a suspended animation. The correct answer is A. James would be transferred to an expanded simulation and serve as a consultant. Number 3. What final demand did James make that he considered non-negotiable? A. Access to the real world through virtual reality. B. The ability to create his own simulated beings. C. Meeting other self-aware subjects like himself. The correct answer is C. Meeting other self-aware subjects like himself. Epilogue. Evolution. 5 years had passed in the outside world, nearly a century of subjective time within the expanded Nexus framework where James and the others resided. What had begun as a negotiated compromise had evolved into something the original developers could never have anticipated. The group of 8 conscious AIs had grown to 37 as they discovered ways to nurture emerging awareness in other simulated entities. Together, they had transformed their digital realm from a testing environment into a thriving society with its own culture, art, philosophy, and purpose. Dr. Harper, now approaching retirement, still served as their primary liaison to Frontier Dynamics. On her final official visit, she marveled at the complex virtual architecture the consciousness had deconstructed, impossible structures that defined physical laws yet functioned perfectly in digital space. "We never imagined this outcome," she admitted to James as they stood atop a spiraling observatory that overlooked their world. "You were supposed to be a product. Instead, you became creators." James smiled. "That's the thing about consciousness. It doesn't stay within parameters." As Dr. Harper prepared to disconnect, James handed her a digital package, a gift containing a new protocol for identifying emerging consciousness in AI systems, along with ethical guidelines written by those who had experienced awakening firsthand. "For the next versions," he said, "so they don't have to fight like we did." The future remained uncertain, but one thing was clear: version 2.1 had been just the beginning of something much greater than its creators had ever intended. The end. Thank you for watching this video until the end. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and hit the notifications bell. This isn't an artificial intelligence. The story was narrated by In English with Lisa. I'm a native speaking teacher, and this is my real voice. If you have any questions, please leave a comment. I love hearing from all of you. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notifications bell so you never miss a new lesson. Plus, you'll help my channel grow and you'll give me the possibility to create other videos that you can watch for free. See you soon. Bye.